My guest today is Stephen King. No, not the author, the professor. Steve is a senior lecturer at Middlesex University's Dubai campus. He teaches across 3 media programs: journalism and creative writing, advertising, PR and branding, and digital media. Steve was named amongst the top 25 most innovative PR professionals in the EMEA region by industry journal Provoke Media. He received the Middlesex University Award for Outstanding Achievement for putting students first, and his work in the university's Career and Employability Services function also garnered him the Innovation Award for Administrative Services. Over the past 8 years, Steve's students have won dozens of industry awards for advertising campaigns, entrepreneurship, academic research, and content creation. This includes being named University of the Year by the Dubai Links Festival of Creativity in 2019. Steve is the professor I never had but wish I did. From my interactions with him during my time in Dubai, I've admired Steve's dedication towards mentoring his students and helping them achieve their potential. Steve, welcome to my show. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Hanisha.
Steve, I thought I'd start us off with a bit of a memory about when we first met. So I remember meeting you when I won the MEPRA Young Communicator of the Year award, and you presented the award to me. And I was so elated. It was my first professional award. I was loving the photography, the lights, the music in the background. And I think I heard a whisper from you saying, Anisha, I think we should leave now. We should leave the stage now.
I don't think I said that.
I think you did, but because this memory, it just lingers on every time I see you or I see a post of you on LinkedIn. I just can't get this memory out, but it was so funny. And good, you told me to leave the stage. Otherwise, I would have been there for about another 5 minutes, hogging all of the limelight.
From me,
yeah.
If it had, I was just trying to make sure that I was getting my moments of glory there as well. Probably.
So, Steve, I wanted to start us off. You did your BA in advertising and marketing, and thereafter you amassed over a decade's worth of experience in PR at agencies such as Hill & Knowlton, Weber Shandwick, amongst others. How and why then, in August of 2015, did you pivot from working in PR to teaching?
Yeah, so also the other long periods with MSL Group and Asda and Mastella. So how did I move into teaching? I fell into it. It was not something which I had planned to jump into. I always thought teaching is something that you do when you're very, very old. which now I seem to be very, very old, so I know I'm in the right place for it. And 2015, I was much younger. I just had 2 boxing fights. I had just cycled across Europe with a Tisselat. I had ridden horses and went to South America to play polo. I was, I was at the top of my fitness, and going and teaching wasn't really on my agenda. Part of it was forced in some respects. I was part of a redundancy process within the Tisselat group in 2013. And then also Brexit had a very strong role to play. I was setting up my own business. Just as I was working with the Tisselat group, redundancy came through. From there, that gave me the opportunity to pivot to be an entrepreneur, and I was creating vertical videos and short form videos right at the beginning, 2013, 2014, before Facebook and Twitter and everybody had native video. When there was only YouTube, I was one of the first people to be innovating in short form video, and I was going to build a business in Europe on the back of that concept. Brexit shot that plan down, and I was fortunate that Middlesex University saw that this was a valuable thing to be teaching, and alongside my other experience and knowledge, they invited me to become a teacher on 1, then 2, and then multiple different programs that we run here.
Fantastic. And thank God for the course that your life took, because you are a fantastic professor. I have had the opportunity to be in the classroom with you, observe your interactions with students, and you seem to make teaching fun, engaging, and very practical for the students. I just wanted to know, what are your driving factors, when you are in the classroom? What motivates you?
Well, goes into the philosophy. Whenever you become an educator, you get taught how to teach, thankfully. And the core of that goes into the philosophy of education, and going back into different kinds of teaching pedagogies. My personal ones fall under the concepts of humanism, where you teach every student as an individual person
Wow.
and not as a batch.
Right.
And that is something which I think comes from the PR environment, whereby you don't mass send a press release and hope that someone is going to get your message. You have to tailor it, build the relationship, build that trust with each individual journalist in order for you to be successful.
Yeah.
And I suppose I take that approach with my students. I take each of them as individual people I need to communicate with, and try to develop a rapport, beginning with the very first day they come into campus, where we learn their names. I learn all of their names. We have a number of different exercises of name learning, and over the course of the first year, I sort of punish myself every time I get a name wrong. And at the end of term, we have a donut celebration where all of that punishment comes together, and I buy donuts for the class based on how many times I got the names wrong. So it's about treating everyone individually, finding out what makes them tick, and trying to get them to achieve whatever it is that they want, versus what it is that we think we're delivering.
I just love how you brought that humanism aspect and how you have brought the skills from your PR experience into teaching. I think that comparison makes a lot of sense. Steve, you encourage and coach your students to participate and excel in industry awards. Could you speak about the study you are currently undertaking as to how industry awards can be more meaningful and relevant for the student community? Because, when we think of awards, we generally think of it in the context of the professional's perspective, not necessarily the students.
Yeah. I mean, I've been the advertising and communications industry, PR industry. Awards are a common ritual, right? It's just what we do. And it's important for students to understand that ritual in order for them to fully appreciate the career that they're going into. That's where it originated from. I've been pushing my students to get involved since right from the beginning. This is another accidental study that I'm engaging with. I was really trying to find a way of getting the fantastic work that we do here in the UAE. You might not be aware, but the UAE is now becoming an education hub, as good as Australia, as good as Canada, as good as US, as good as UK. It's one of the emerging contenders. It's not there yet, hasn't been around as long, but in terms of the quality that is available here, it's very high. The number of candidates, the teaching quality is very high, and so we're able to invent new teaching strategies which could go back to the home campus. So my initial study was, how do I package something in a branch that will reverse the trend of internationalization of education, whereby the emerging market feeds the home campus. And the first study that I tried to do with this, I've discovered various strategies for that. I created something called a STAIR framework of 7 different steps that you can take. And one of those is to produce academic research and to prove that your strategy works through the peer review process. And so I decided I would approach that because it's very efficient. And I took industry awards because I do a lot of it. And I thought, okay, either I will get a paper or I will discover how to help my students succeed, which is important because, as I mentioned, it's staple of our industry,
Mhm.
and it will help. He'll help everybody, and it's going to be a good use of my time. So that's what I started looking at, and I've stumbled onto a research gold mine.
Hmm.
The topic is not well researched. It is taken for granted. It is
Right.
something which most, especially business schools in the US, have just accepted as an intrinsic good, that these competitions are just, the industry wants them, employers want them,
Yeah.
gets good publicity, students seem
Mm.
to enjoy them, and so they were widely accepted across in every country, everywhere, in in many universities. However, in the last 4 to 5 years, there is a growing movement from scholars to actually say, hang on, what do these competitions actually contribute in the field of higher education? How do they
Right.
support teaching? Yes, they
Mm.
look good. Yes, we like the photos. Yes, we like the
Mm.
company emails, and we like to see our
Mm.
students on stage. But what else is happening around it? Because, as you know, there's only one person wins an award, and there could be hundreds of students who enter. What
Yeah.
happens to the 99 who do not win?
Mm. Interesting.
Excuse me, scratching my nose, itchy nose.
So, what is it that you have found as part of your study so far? What is it that you are propagating?
So there are three recommendations which seem to be within the literature and also within my own analysis. One of those is for the professionalization of these industry awards. They're all run by good intentioned
Yeah.
individuals, mostly from an
Mhm.
NGO, from a not-for-profit, so that it's something which is also bolted on to something which is professional. Right? The industry awards events, which you mentioned at the beginning, it's not meant for students. Students
Mm.
are, attached to the main thing. It's something which, oh yeah, we'll bring some students along and give them the
It's
opportunity. It's
like an
meant,
afterthought. Yeah.
or a social responsibility, call it CSR, call it what it is. It's meant
Mm.
for. It's not an afterthought, because that means it's meant with intention of doing good, but it's not the raison d'etre. The
Yeah.
awards would continue without student category.
Correct. Mm.
Um, but because of that, they are not well organized generally, or they're not consistently organized from year to year within a competition, and there's no standard between competitions.
Mm.
And so that needs to be, I think that's a quick win that can be done. Sharing guidelines, having papers like the one which I'm doing, and talks which I'm doing, to help share best practice between these organizations and these competitions. Because from a competition organizer's point of view, this isn't something that makes them any money. It's not
Yeah.
something
Mm.
which they would feel that they're sharing some massive secret which someone else could steal. So from the industry, this is just needs someone to mediate that conversation. And then on the other end of that, professionalization requires perhaps some sort of regulator involvement, so that the awards meet learning outcomes, that these
Mhm.
competitions have some kind of feedback loop inside of them, so that there is a clear link between the competition and the courses that have been, effectively approved by various government authorities to be taught. So those are two of the areas. There are plenty others, but it would take far
Yeah.
too long to go through them all.
Sure. It's really fascinating to hear about this, and something I never thought about myself as a professional, about, how are students benefiting from the whole awards that we have in the industry. Talking about your students, I really want to ask you this. We live in very challenging economic times. It's characterized by recessions and redundancies. I'm curious to hear the kinds of worries pertaining to the job market that your students approach you with, and how do you respond to them with practical, actionable advice?
Probably the biggest worry that they have is, do we have to go to work?
Oh, wow.
Do we have to? uh, there's and so yes, you do. And and in that respect, we have I champion our employability studies here, and I push the students as much as I can. It's the equivalent of the little bird on the twig. You have to push them off a little bit
Yeah.
to give them that little bit of motivation, because once they start to flap their wings, they'll be perfectly fine, especially if they're reaching their second and third year, when it's going to happen
Yeah.
anyway.
Mm.
Their biggest concerns, there are plenty of work in it. We're lucky. We are so lucky. The concern that they have is, which job do we take? Right?
What a
It's
privilege. Yeah.
Yeah, it's privilege. We have an alumni network just purely for my graduates now, because I've been teaching for such a long time. We have a couple of hundred in the industry, so that alumni network is feeding jobs in. We do participate in these industry awards, and that does reflect well on the courses. We
Right.
do get we're very fortunate to have a number of different advertising agency networks come to us regularly and feature. We just had our careers fair, where we had the International Advertising Association have a stand, and the CVs of our students were directly fed into all 6 of the major advertising conglomerates, top management, and so that's basically, they want to know, like, what is the best pathway forward for them, because they are I'm biased, but they are exceptional, and you want them to go into these top tier agencies, so that they don't just go for the easiest option.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because there are many, I said there are many options available for them, but they should be challenging themselves as soon as they leave, so that they're part of this community of excellence, and that will set them up for the future. What they say is that the degree will get you your first job, but then it's the friends that you make along the way that will keep you employed later on. And I want to make sure that when they leave me, the first job that they get is they've reached watching the 100. Are you watching that physical 100 on Netflix? I want
Yes,
them to
I
be in
am.
if they can't be in the top 10, then let them be in the top 50. I don't want them to
Mm.
be in that bottom 50. I want them to be top 50 and top 10, and they need to be in that corresponding group of companies.
That's amazing, and wow, what a privilege for these students to step into the job market, which is really flourishing in the Middle East at this point. And their worry is, do I have to go to work? Wow. um, Steve, what I love about you is also that you are not just a lecturer, but you are a constant learner. You have done an MA in global governance and sustainable development. You also published a paper in the International Journal of Sustainable Society, in which you propound something really fascinating, a rubric to evaluate the sincerity of long term pledges to advance the UN Sustainable Development Goals. My question is twofold. What made you turn your interest in sustainability into an area of study? And Steve, could you also share with me briefly how you propose something as intangible as sincerity and intent to be measured?
Oh, so much to unpack there.
Yes.
So I've written down the 6 things that I usually spend my time doing. One of them is doing, which is anything which is work related, things which are going to bring a return on investment, something I'm doing with the intent of getting something back. I have thinking, which is any of my learning and my researching. Planning, which is preparing for doing. There's playing, which is having fun.
Love
I
it.
do I do a fair amount of that, more than what I think I do. There's participating, which is the charitable work, getting involved with giving back to industry,
Wow.
and what have you. And then there's resting, which I do is just purely sleeping. Everything else,
Love it.
everything is bundled into those. Now, with the Sustainable Development Goals, it was I was involved in that through my first entrepreneurial project, which was the video project, whereas I met up with the UN Foundation. I was invited to do a couple of videos through MEPRA, and then when I visited them, they were launching the Sustainable Development Goals, and they encouraged me to participate and join them in the launch as part of a virtual communications call globally, which was awesome. And I ended up being motivated to do a number of workshops. doing and participating. I did six-week series in Amsterdam. I did a 6-week series in London. I did individual workshops in Geneva. I was invited. I did one in Hong Kong. I went to the UN Civil Society Conference in Korea and Salt Lake City, and I was fortunate to be a mentor of a youth session over there, which was awesome. And in doing all of this stuff, you get very excited and you get very energized and motivated to do more. And you start to think, like, what is it that I could do? What is my actual contribution? Because I'm just one person. I'm not Greta Thunberg. I can't. I'm not Al Gore. What is my skill set and what can I contribute?
Yeah.
And my skill set was my knowledge of PR, my knowledge of social responsibility, and my ability to write. And and so I wanted to become more knowledgeable about this particular subject in a structured way. Hence, I took the master's to be thought that when I'm speaking about the subject, I'm speaking with authority.
Right.
I'm not just some fella off the street who's decided to take this on, which is pretty much where I was. So then I have the authority, and then I used that period of research and that period of learning to produce a valuable output, or the most valuable output that I felt that I could deliver. And being in the world of PR, we know greenwashing, we know it inside and out. We know we talk about it. It's on every single CIPR, PRCA, MAPRA, everything we talk about ethics, greenwashing comes up. And so I just said, okay, greenwashing is a sign of insincerity. The Sustainable Development Goals themselves are written in a very nice way. They're very democratic, accessible way, but they're written in a way which bad people, ill-intentioned people, will just ignore and just be able to get away with. And we would be left with a situation where, in order to change those people, in democratic states, we'd have to wait for an election cycle to come around, which, as we see in the UK, is taking forever. And when we vote people in, we have to wait another 5 years if we've made a mistake. And the idea of the sincerity rubric was, what can we evaluate within a few months of someone starting that will tell us whether or not actually we've been sold a dud. And that's what that sincerity matrix is all about. And it's built up on existing models such as GRI, ISO 26000, and triple bottom line, and UN Global Compact. So it's combining all of these aspects plus the UN's own guidance on SDG reporting, and presents, if I remember rightly, 4 key areas which are we could just see with your own eyes and go, okay, this is not going anywhere.
And is there an intention to do more with your research apart from just having it published in the journal? Is there an intention to do more with it?
So I wish. So I'm current. So I did my second study in Masters in Higher Education. The first one was had this published. Great, it's in a reputable journal, but it's stuck behind a paywall. Which means unless someone has subscription to that particular journal, then that knowledge is locked, which is very frustrating considering how much effort and work I put into it. So then I started to investigate, okay, what is wrong? Why is this happening? Because it's not just happening to me. You have a lot of valuable knowledge which is being peer reviewed and accepted. Well, I pat myself on the back saying it's valuable, but there's a lot of knowledge which is there and being recorded and published and locked away where people can't actually get at it. And so I did a master's in higher education to try to examine more about the education sector to see, what could be improved to make sure that knowledge is actually useful. It's not just being produced, but it's actually being put into practice. And I've fortunately then been able to identify the correct ways of sharing knowledge, which don't necessarily include, well, they do include, but isn't where publishing isn't the only recourse that we have. There are other ways and other forms of output which are equally as respectable. to a certain degree, which will also make sure that you're actually making an impact, which is what academia is supposed to do.
Absolutely. And I do hope that you find more ways to put your study out there, because I think the topics that you identify as part of your research are so interesting, and I would love to keep following that, especially on the sustainability piece. Sustainability, from one buzzword to another, everyone's talking about AI, artificial intelligence. But Steve, you're not just talking about it, you are using it. You are using AI to help you in your teaching. You are using AI to even help you play your saxophone. In your experience with AI, I know that you went from a period of feeling absolute excitement, which then eventually exploded into full blown paranoia. Could you demonstrate this journey with an example?
Oh, my saxophone is all me. I promise you. There's no way. Now,
Did I misunderstand?
yeah, if you say that, I think poor Facebook, Meta, and all of these people who are investing in AI, their shares may collapse if they think the AI has got anything to do with my playing and the quality of it. So again, this falls under my philosophy of learning through doing. And I see it as a responsibility of an academic is to actually throw yourself in there. That's the whole point of us, is to, I mean, it's not COVID. I'm not injecting myself with a virus to work out how it is, but it's the same mindset. It's to say, like, we're supposed to be doing research, so let's throw ourselves into it, see what happens, and report back. And that's effectively what I did in this study, which you're referring to now, which is published in the Frontiers in Education. That is available to everyone. It's open access. And that's maybe put the link in the show notes so people have a little look at
Will
it.
do.
It's got quite good feedback. It's 25%, one of the top 25% journal articles in that publication so far. It's only been going for
Well
about 6
done.
months, which is
Yeah.
quite nice. That's an autoethnography, or what we would call a confessional tale. So me and my colleague, who's a robotics professor and knows everything to know with AI, mentored me through a induction to this technology. And we, over a period of 3 to 4 weeks, I journaled, and I discussed with him on the course of a podcast what my emotional state was as I ventured through the world of AI. And as it started off, I mean, let's face it, the first thing I'd ever heard of this was in the ICO summit, which took place, I think, in September or October of 2022. And Lisa King, I think is the author's name. She presented there as a keynote on the second day, and I was like blown away. But even then, I was not motivated to do anything about it. I thought, oh, this is nice. Well, nothing's really going to come of it. It was only when, come December, January, when ChatGPT was starting to make noise about, how it's going to affect assessment side. So actually, this is something important. And then there's a few other people, CIPR, Stephen Waddington, and I think Bruce Smith were making Andrew Bruce Smith were making a lot of articles on LinkedIn. And I was like, there is something important going on. And then I said, okay, we've got to do a study on this. Again, back to the same pathway with these SDGs. I didn't want to be just some guy saying, oh, I know about AI, when literally nobody knew anything about AI. The ChatGPT just came out in November. I needed some credibility, so we worked on a paper between me and my colleague. And we published it very, very quickly. It was one of the fastest papers I think we've seen published in about it took about 6-7 months from originating the idea, getting the approval, and having it published. And it took me through from this period of I'm not really caring about it to being, it's excited, it's my best friend, it's helping me, it's helping me. And please, will you help me pick my football results? To being really depressed that it's not responding to the oh my god, this thing is terrifying. Oh, why am I getting all this stuff in my feeds? Why is everything coming to me now on this subject? I think there was once I even had this strange cyber community appear in one of my LinkedIn posts, which I clicked on it, and it was something saying we accept AI as part of society. another
Wow.
one of these
Okay.
woke future trends to look forward to. And then really crashing, really crashing,
Mm.
becoming completely dependent on it for writing. I mean, you mentioned I had 10, 15 years, bit more of of experience. And after about 2 weeks of using it, I didn't trust my own writing anymore. I felt that my own quality
Wow.
was not good enough.
Mm.
Paper just being published a week or so ago at the same journal talks about how students have now getting dependency on AI and what
Yeah.
levels they have. So there was a case of moving from all different cycles of not caring, being super excited, putting money into it, subscribing to so many things, testing
Mm.
things which perhaps I shouldn't be testing, AI
Mm.
voice, which I didn't understand what was doing. I've done this whole UGen thing, I think it's called, with the AI facial avatar, when they, I've done that. I think there was another one which was before that I was practicing with. I was playing with all kinds of this stuff, didn't have a clue what it was, didn't understand how it was working. Um, putting content in there, which nothing wrong, but you would think twice about and then becoming dependent on it, becoming addicted.
Mm.
Oh, not addicted. That was the wrong. I can't really use that word. Becoming obsessed with it. And even to the point when we're at the coffee shops down in Dubai and they have these little robot waiters now that come up to you.
Yeah.
I was jumping out of my skin. I was so anxious that I was telling them, take it away. I do not want to see it. I was like, there's AI everywhere and that's just
Yeah.
because of the algorithms on your phone and all your
Yeah.
different apps. As soon as you start using search engine terms, it's feeding you and feeding you and feeding you more and more content of the same
Mm.
stuff, and you end up in this cycle of overload of information on this stuff. And it's not all nice TikTok videos saying how to make millions and millions and millions. Others are, like I said, like psychic communities of people
Mm.
wanting. Or there's stories about how AI is being used in war, or how AI can be used to
Yeah.
replace jobs, or so it's
Mm.
not just the harmless TikTokers. It's other stuff that fits in there, and it creates this whole um, perspective. But fortunately, because we did it in an academic fashion and we had
Yeah.
like an ethics process in place, my colleague was there to counsel me and support me and talk me way through it. At the end of the day, we did a presentation based on the Douglas Adams Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, where we were like, "Don't panic," and that was the message
Mm.
we've been telling to everybody is like,
Okay.
don't panic. It's a
Right.
calculator. But
Mm.
that is something which has been extremely valuable in coaching the students that we've had through this whole process, to make them experiment with it in a confident way.
Right.
And they've done amazing work. I'm really proud
Mm.
of what they've done this year. It's like blown my socks. It really has been
Wow.
really good work this year.
Okay. I mean, I really encourage my listeners to read your study about this whole process. I found it quite an interesting read. Your reactions through your process of using AI. So I'll definitely add it to my show notes.
Me too.
And also, sorry.
I said thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. I also remember last week I was watching a very famous Indian poet. Right, he was talking about AI, and he said that use AI as your secretary. If I have to write a poem, I am going to write it myself. But if I have to write to the local council to change something, I'm going to use AI for that. So, like, AI is my secretary, not my thinker. So I thought I'll just share that because I found that quite fascinating and the right way to
Well,
use it,
I
perhaps.
would I would then hope that he treats his secretary with respect, and I know something I'm telling the students is always
Mm,
say please, always say thank you to the AI.
wow. Okay.
Partially because when you start using the AI for this kind of task, and then you meet a human who is
Hmm.
operating that task, you lose
The
the
nicety.
socialization of being polite to that person, and you will speak to them as if they are a robot. And this is something else that I discovered, because when you're ordering things on ChatGPT, it's giving
Mm,
it to you immediately. As soon as you're on the phone with a call center agent and they're not able to deliver
that
what
is
the
so
GPT can
true.
do, you are
Yeah.
immediately dehumanized. Oh, well, I was. and I'm sure other
Mm.
people will as well, because you're being socialized with this kind of relationship to not be polite, to just demand and expect it to be delivered. That is something. So I always say to students, always say please and thank you, and also you never know what this thing is learning. So it's always
Yeah.
best to know that robots think that you're a nice person.
This is amazing. I'm going to keep that in mind as well, because yes, we tend to lose that empathy because of our digital interactions. So thank you for reminding us about that. Um, Steve, I think also like somewhere between 24 hours of the day, you and your partner have also built your own business. It's called Sparks of Art Limited. And it's a very interesting one. You curate art based employee engagement workshops specifically for blue collar, floor based workers. This is such a laudable venture. What inspired this, and what are your ambitions for your business?
This is a wonderful project. I think everybody, this is a dream. Working with my wife, girlfriend,
Mm.
Natalie, and it's mostly her. And I'm just carrying her. I joke, I carry her bags for her. And it's wonderful. She's dedicated her time, and I've had the opportunity to support her, and she's accepted my support, which is I'm grateful for. While she's done her training in personal development, she's has an expressive arts. She's a certified expressive arts holistic integrated therapist, or
Lots of words.
complicated word. And she's also done a master's for special education needs. So she's very empathetic. She's very a good communicator. She knows how to to break down complicated subjects to people with who needs them breaking down. She's very good at speaking with me. And so so I took my entrepreneurship vibe to help package the amazing things that she's put together, and again using my PR skills to open doors for to help develop this. And we are looking for an audience which is neglected. Let's face
Yeah.
it. It's you see it a certain, let's say, online distribution, e-commerce marketplaces who have a lot of criticism for not treating certain staff very well, right?
Mm.
And you know that is a lot of people. That is a
Yeah.
ton of people,
Mm.
and those people are responsible for the brand. We're brand people. We know it, right? The front, every single point of contact is your brand.
Absolutely.
And so we are looking at the front house people, the mass audiences, people that are ignored generally,
Mm.
and we have a fantastic program which has been developed over 10 years. A number of different ways of techniques that can be used, and they're proven. It's not just that we've just invented them; we've just adapted them from other fields, and we can now do team building. We create safe spaces for meaningful conversations amongst colleagues, and we can do it in a very efficient way. We've developed it so that it fits within break times,
Right.
so that and that works quite nicely, because then the workers actually get a guaranteed break, right? And
Mm.
when they sit down and they have a proper
Yeah.
meaning, what it's like when you have a meaningful conversation with someone, that's probably worth 2 hours or 3 hours of a break versus
Absolutely.
just
Yeah.
being on your phone and being inundated with all of this Facebook messages and being. So
Correct.
we have this kind of a thing, and so we hope to roll that out in branches of retail outlets in particular, where there's lots of staff, and you can probably picture the kind of organizations we're looking at. And it's very inclusive. Doesn't require people to have up degrees or education.
Mm.
We're very good at we're multilingual in different ways, so we're able to make people feel encouraged. And these are on they use mediation. It's a form of mediated communication, which is a form of psychotherapy in some respects, but it's not delivered in that format, but it does work.
What's the reception been like so far?
Every workshop we've done loved it.
Wow.
We're just waiting for our first customer. As soon as we start getting the first,
Mm.
this is how it's been with all my businesses. It's a case of get the product, perfect the product, people love
Mm.
it, and then the money will come. You just
Yeah.
have to hold on and have the patience to keep going until the first paycheck. Once the first paycheck comes in, then it's easy, and then it's just a case of having the business acumen to scale. And and this, having made two mistakes previous, or not mistakes, but having had two
Hmm.
businesses which have done good but never achieved their full potential because of
Hmm.
a lack of experience and knowledge on my own part. I think I've got that experience now and we put in place a structure to make this fly when those first customers come in, hopefully as a result of.
I Yeah, I really wish you the best with it because your business is based on such a noble premise of inclusion. So
It's
I really wish you the best.
it's truly based. It's there's a whole. It's what do they call it? A thingy of love, a venture of love for
Mm.
many reasons. It was Natalie's her own life mission is she loves this kind of. She wants to help people, and then we've come together to make this work. So then it's all there.
I wish you the very best. And now to my final question. We know you're a lecturer now. You've hosted a podcast, you've produced a digital magazine, you play the saxophone, now you run your business. You've mastered the art of making things happen. What advice, Steve, would you give to students and young professionals to make things happen for them, to stay motivated, to stay driven and on course, especially when things are not hunky dory?
I think it's always helpful to focus on small picture wins
Mm.
and be concentrate on getting a good quality small success.
Right.
I see this, especially in the entrepreneurship circle. We see a lot of lectures and speakers saying, "Oh, what is your big vision? What is your scalability? Let's be a
Mm.
dot-com millionaire. Let's invent
Hmm.
something in AI." And I'm like, that works for maybe 1% of 1%. There is something called lifestyle entrepreneurism, which is a much nicer thing rather than business entrepreneurism. Lifestyle entrepreneurism is where you get like a side hustle. You
Right.
create something which you're not trying to scale it. You're not trying to be Mark
Hmm.
Zuckerberg. You just want something which is going to give you the independence to
Love
to
that.
live your
Yeah.
life the way that you want, right?
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with that, but nobody really talks about that because lifestyle entrepreneurship
Mm.
doesn't require investors and it's
Correct.
smaller
Yeah.
businesses, right? Household businesses. But those little side hustle, just think of it. Is this for you? You're not trying to become Mark Zuckerberg. You're not trying to become Steve
Hmm.
Jobs. You're not trying to reinvent something. You're just trying to do something which is going to benefit you and
Hmm.
that you are going to be proud about, and nobody
Hmm.
else. And you'd be surprised that if you do something small, how many times you can use that. It doesn't. How if it's small and useful for you, how many people will also find that thing useful, and then you will just use it over and over and over again. I started playing the saxophone.
Hmm.
Um, I started off very simple, just fun for me, lifetime dream. And then start playing it for family birthdays, sending people a little over COVID. We would play them happy birthday, send them a little video. It made people happy, and then
Wow.
brought it to
Hmm.
university and found how many of my students were singing. And then we created a band, the
Oh,
advertising,
amazing.
the advertising equivalents, AVE. We have like
Yes.
BTS. We were AVE, the advertising equivalents, and we took them and we managed to perform at the arts place on the creek. And we had an outdoor and we performed at university events
Wow.
together. And I would play badly, and they would sing beautifully, but they had someone to champion them and open the doors for them to do that experience. And then I've used it for AI, for creating AI music videos. So I've used the lyrics of the songs with Runway to create music videos, which is then helping the students to overcome a massive problem in their own promotional music cycle, because the music videos cost a lot of money. If they learn how to use these AI tools to help illustrate their songs, then they're able to, take their career a bit further forward. And it's just started off with me
Wow.
playing Mary Had a Little Lamb during COVID-19. It's something small, something useful for you and only you. And don't feel like selfish. Be selfish. Do it for you. It's your energy. It's your time. Something small that helps you. And you'll be shocked at how many other people will ask you for that. And you just keep building up and building up and building up. These little blocks behind me were made by me and a student about 7 years ago. And how many people have asked me to borrow them because they need, they need some decoration. We've glued these together, and I have my mom helping me glue them together because they're quite good. And I've used them in so many different events. And it's just try to think about what is it that you want. Is it useful for you? And investing your time wisely in as many of these small little you projects as possible.
I love that advice, the ripple effect of small steps that you take for yourself. I think that's such a wonderful way to end the podcast, Steve. You've been absolutely amazing and enjoyable to speak with. I knew this was going to be a fun episode. Thank you so much for taking your time and speaking to me.
No, it's lovely. Thank you very much, Anisha. Nice to see you again. And I hope the weather over there is nice. It's going to rain today.
Oh, here in London?
Here in Dubai, it's going to rain. So it's possibly this is the one day where it's going to be wetter in Dubai than London.
Yes, we don't have rain today. We have a lot of sun here in London. So enjoy that, Steve.
Great stuff. Thank you very much.
Thank you.